traveling with the queen of rock and roll. The COVID hit, now we're stuck at home. Instead of sitting on our ass, we came up with this sick podcast. Crewicide, Crewicide, out of my way, you're in my line. Crewicide, Crewicide, the main four picks and sticks all night. Crewicide, Crewicide, ha 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 ha. Crewicide, Crewicide, no autographs tonight. Can I get a set list, man? Hey, set list, please.
Okay, now we're recording.
Is this where the intro music starts?
This is where the intro music starts, yeah. And then I say, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Crewicide podcast. We are here with the infamous Annie Stoic and an equal amount of infamy with our special guest, the king of the West Coast, the king of Disney, the king of all merch, Mr. Randy Volpert, with the Chiquita.
Hello.
What's up, buddy?
The size of your head.
How are you?
How you doing?
You know, it's another day doing the same thing.
So
Come downstairs, make coffee, turn on the TV, watch TV, finish the coffee, go upstairs, go to sleep, repeat.
wake back up. So let's give a little background on our good buddy Randy. Obviously he's Blackheart associated, but like other people within Blackheart community, he works for many people. Randy is king of the merch scene. But let's get a little background. Why don't you tell us who you work for, what you do exactly, and how many people you're currently working for? Well, obviously right now we're not working for anyone, but
No,
go ahead.
I'm not working for anybody. Not a person. Should I go backwards with who I worked with from the last to the first?
Well, Annie, when did I think Annie met you first, right? Annie, when did you meet Randy?
Yeah, we met. It's probably a while. What, like maybe over 5 years now? I feel like
at least more than that.
Because we met at the Marin County Fair.
Oh, I wasn't there for that one.
When
San Francisco.
Yes, Randy was working for Steel Pulse at the time. We needed a merch seller, and they were there, I believe, the day after. The Blackheart. So Randy came and sold merch for us. I met him, and we clicked, and I was like, "Oh, this guy knows his shit." You know. So every time we went to California area, whatever, we always hired Randy to do merch for us in the California area, and we just kept in touch. And then we all went on a crew DisneyLand trip with you, and you're king of Disneyland, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But we did meet through Steel. Well, you were working with Steel Pulse, and then we've, worked together and done a bunch of merch gigs and stuff. You're like my go-to. Oh my God, my venue doesn't work. I need to call Randy.
That wasn't even the reason why I came to work. Really, what it was I called the guy at the fair and said, "Hey, Joe and Jed, the Blackhearts are playing the day before us. Can I come? Can you get me in?" And he said, "They're looking for somebody to sell their merchandise because we don't do it." I said, "I'm down. I'm in. I wanted to see the show. I didn't want to."
Ah, that's the other flip side, huh? So
Yeah.
That's great.
No, I wanted to see it. So I end up setting up, and I'm outside of the venue, facing the opposite direction. So I heard the whole show and didn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it smelled like duck shit the whole entire time.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
there's so much cheese there.
Yeah.
Well, it's on a tiny little like inlet island on a small man-made pond that you walk over a little walkway causeway to. Now that gig is infamous for many, many reasons. I've done that gig so many times with John, with you guys before I even met you guys. But that year, some psychedelic stuff happened at that gig later on that year. Remember the next year we were back with Night Ranger, and a lot of stuff has happened at that gig. But that is a very cool gig. For those who don't know, it's in the Marin County Fairgrounds or Park, and it's got it's basically on a tiny little man-made island on a man-made pond.
Yeah.
And there's duck shit everywhere, geese shit.
Yep, just an island. An island
Yeah.
with the ducks surrounding it, and then
Last times I was there before I came back for my second round, my buddies Black Cobra, who are a super thrash heavy metal duo out of the Bay Area, who are very well known, came to see me there, and that was a great time in that venue too. I've had a lot of good times at that particular venue. So it's cool that you started off with us there, you know.
Hey, any place you can work and get a fried Twinkie, it's not a bad thing.
Randy, Steel Pulse.
Uh-oh.
Now let's go through the list of column.
You want to go backwards? We'll go backwards. We'll go
there we go.
Doing the cool Hall of Famers. So, last gig I did was Sting last year. 2019. And then before Sting was Billy Gibbons. And then before Billy Gibbons was, I think, Kiss stuff.
Oh yeah, and you are associated with Kiss also on a semi-regular basis as well, correct?
Well, that comes and goes, but since '98, becoming friendly with their crew guys, and then, luckily enough in 2018, I got to start the end of the road tour. So I did the first leg of the U.S. and all of Europe, and then I kind of decided it was time to make some changes, and things happen. It's not
Sure.
that I don't love them dearly, and they're good guys, and the crew guys are awesome. And if it wasn't for them, I would never have done this, ever. I would never have gotten into touring. So I owe them the thanks of letting me come in and learn from being not a fly on the wall, but hey, I want to get there and I want to actually put me to work. So they did. They threw me in a truck, and next thing I knew, I'm counting T-shirts, and I'm like, oh, I could do this. And the guy goes, yeah, you can do this. You can do this for a living. So I left my job that I had prior after being there for almost 10 years due to changes in ownership and other things, and took a life on the road after spending almost a year sitting on a couch. So COVID hasn't changed much since in between gigs. I'm used to sitting on the couch.
We're all listening to Hurry Up and Waiting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to make fucking big plans this year. If anything comes back, I mean, I don't know, but it's just COVID sucks, man. It puts us all out here. It's literally Annie's on the couch, I'm in my fucking room, and you're on your couch, and we're all on the couch.
I haven't talked to too many folks, and I haven't called and followed up on things, and I look and I see things on a schedule, and the next thing I know is it's been pushed again. So until I feel comfortable reaching out, I'm just gonna let it go and catch up on things at home that I've been doing. The stupid projects you do when you're at home.
Let's talk about your association with the Aquabats.
Do you mean?
I'm sorry, the Meatbats. I always call them the Aquabats. I don't know why.
Totally different band.
Oh, I always forget the Meatbats.
Chad Smith, the Bombastic Meatbats.
Well, when you say you have friends, and you have friends when you're a kid, and then you've known them since you were in diapers, and then you'll know them when you're in diapers again, when you get older, because that's going to happen. In your next beef, you will be wearing those Depends, I swear.
Shh, don't tell anybody, man. I'm wearing them now.
Buddy Jim decided after some years of working at a recording studio and engineering and such that he would dabble in doing some production, and then decided he wanted to do some distribution, and he ended up kind of doing a company and going out there and doing stuff with some other distribution companies as a side gig, and getting stuff in Tower Records, and when there were record stores. What ended up happening is once Tower Records kind of took the dump, he still wanted to do that and had an open-ended kind of offer from Universal. So he moved over to Universal, and one of the first projects that he got was got a CD from somebody and said, "Hey, would you be interested in putting this out?" And it was kind of a jazzy thing, and he gave it to me, and he goes, "What do you think?" He goes, "Take a listen and tell me what you think." So I stuck it in my car and called him the next day, and I said, "Man, the keyboardist and guitarist in this band are awesome. They're great." I said, "I think you should do something with it." I said, "I think it'll be, very successful." And he goes, "Well, the drummer from the Chili Peppers." I said, "That's not going to help. It's not going to hurt. It'll be all right." I had met, Chad a few years back at my other gig. He was friends with somebody that I knew, and he used to come to where I used to work before I got into music. So we ended up deciding that we wanted to sign them to the label, and I invested in the project, and that's kind of how you do it. He's the boss, and I said, "I'll put in, X amount of dollars, and let's get this thing rolling." And went and met the guys and reintroduced myself to Chad, who kind of recognized me right away, at a place called the Baked Potato, which is a little jazz club near Universal City in Los Angeles. It's been there for years, and hopefully it will survive this.
That's a legendary spot in general. For those who don't know, Baked Potato is a place where you could obviously see a guy like Chad Smith playing, fusion jazz or whatever the hell it is being played, or even, a professional guitarist or anybody could be playing there at any time.
Yeah, I mean, Lukather would come in. Sometimes Steve Perry from Journey would just come in just to watch and kind of hang because they live in the neighborhood. Some of the greatest, Danny Carey and one of his other offshoot bands would be there all the time. So, you're looking at a place that packed, you'd get in about 100 people. And then once the guys are done with their set, they don't hide. There's no real backstage. So they kind of hang out, and it's a good place to just kind of get a good vibe and kind of be normal and to hear a different type of music. They never, ever, 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 ever played Chili Peppers stuff. That wasn't it.
Yeah, I got you.
So, after seeing them actually play the first time, I sat down and I had their contracts, and I said, "Here you go. We're ready to sign you." And they signed on the dotted line, and we put out a couple of their studio records. They did a live one that they did themselves, and they didn't really have a booking agent or anything, so we kind of booked them here and there throughout the country. Most of the time though, they played no places bigger than 200-300 seat venues. Played in New York a couple of times. We played in Pennsylvania. We played in Detroit, but mostly it was either Orange County or at the Baked Potato. And since everything that's been going on, the guys have been keeping busy and doing what they need to do, but we don't leave it that I can't make a phone call and say things are good, are you guys ready to go? And whatever excuse we can have, they'll come out and play. So cross our fingers. It's amazing to watch them. I mean, these guys are stupid good musicians. And then every now and then, Chad can't do a gig, so we'll get somebody else. We've had Kenny Arnoff come in, so he's been a Meatbat. And then we've also had
we know Kenny.
We know Kenny from a one-off gig. And then
were you there? Wait, were you there?
Oh, he was there.
That was that fashion show.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
They only played like 5 songs, though. It was like a big private event, but it was pretty cool.
It was at the Palladium in LA in Hollywood.
That's right. And it was
I think we were all just as excited to see who was going to show up.
That was more of it.
When they started doing the red carpet, we're like, I wonder who's going to show up. And here come all these people. And then this guy comes up to Annie and I and is talking to us, and we're like, "Oh, what happened to your leg?" And I guess he had hurt it playing basketball or something. And he didn't want to do the red carpet because he was on crutches, and I didn't know who he was.
Go ahead.
And then all of a sudden he gets yelled, "Honey, come on, it's time to go in." And we look over, and it was Jessica Alba. And it was Jessica Alba's husband who was talking to us. And then she comes over to talk to us. And we're like, "Oh, we're just keeping your husband company." And like,
I miss Jessica, but so now let's talk about that gig. That was the gig where me, Billy, and some other members of the crew were hanging out, just like you said, backstage in the parking lot area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same scenario happened. And this picture that's on the wall will tell the story because I'll forward it to Annie. But and there's many pictures from that night I have. And this was great. This guy comes up in a leather jacket with some chick, and he's like, "Hey, you guys work for a band?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, what's up?" And he's like, we work for Joan. And he's like, "Oh, you guys work for Joan? She's my favorite artist of all time." I'm like, "Of course." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." And he's like, "I actually have a picture that Shepard Fairley painted above my bed." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Yo, I really don't want to do the red carpet. Can you guys get us in?" Same fucking scenario.
Yes, I remember. I was there.
You remember this? You were right next to me.
Yeah,
we were. I was with you.
Yeah, can I ruin it? Can I say
No,
it?
go ahead.
I turned around and I said yes.
And it was Zac Efron.
It was Zac Efron.
And somebody snapped a picture
of him with Joan, right?
Of him with Joan, and I'm in the picture. That's you?
I took the picture with him and Joan, and then Ed's in the background.
And I'm in. No, that's a different picture that you might have taken. Picture. And then you definitely took this one because I'm in the second shot, cut off just a half with my top hat on and my SIR shirt. And I'm like,
yeah. Ed came over and said, "Who was that taking a picture with Joni?" I said, "Oh, that was Zac Efron." He goes, "Oh, can I take a picture with Zac Efron?"
That's total Ed.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be a part of the red
carpet.
He
was cool.
He was with his girlfriend, I guess, and he didn't want to get her involved in the paparazzi and all that other stuff. And yeah, come on in, we'll sneak you in the back door. We don't care,
Great story.
He was supposed to be there.
I apologize for not realizing it was you that I was with. I knew I'd been walking with Billy, and I was coming back with you guys, I guess. I apologize. Sorry. I'm sorry.
And Justin Bieber going through.
That's another one.
And he had a skateboard, and he looked like the most saddest kid.
He did.
He didn't seem like he wanted to be there. He didn't seem happy.
No.
And, we're friendly folks, and we're just, honestly, we do our job. You do your job. You may be the one that people recognize, but, I've always been look, everybody gets a paycheck. If I don't do my gig and you don't do your gig, then there's problems. So, we were just trying to be nice to everybody who came by. So it was one of those like, hey, and he just kind of he just did not seem like he wanted to be anywhere.
He bummed the fucking lighter off of me.
Yeah.
And he didn't, I lit his cigarette and said, "Oh," he's like, "Oh, can I hold it for a minute?" I was like, "Yeah." And then he starts talking to a bunch of other celebrities and never gave me my fucking lighter back.
I think we should find him.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody's out there, shout out Justin. Justin, you're a cool dude. It was awesome, but yo, bro, where's my lighter?
Yeah, come on. I remember seeing Stallone walk
that's another one I was going to say. I recognized him and his daughters.
His daughters, yeah. And I knew his wife before they were married. And I yelled, "Where's Jennifer?" Where's Jennifer? How come she's not here? I don't want to see you. I want to see your wife. It's been forever.
That's right. I forgot about that. That was a good one, right, Annie? Remember? Tell us. And Annie, what else did we do that day?
Oh, we went to a studio that day.
This was a great gig. And you know what? You'll have to come back for the Chronicles of LA with us. We're going to do a Chronicles of the West Coast. But we're going to get into it now. We'll tell this story again. Annie, go ahead. This is one of my favorites.
Well, what studio was it?
Sunset Sound, infamous, the most famous studio on the West Coast.
Usually during the day we don't get any type of breaks, and we somehow had an hour or two to spare where we couldn't be on the stage or anything. So Tim Armstrong from Rancid happened to be recording right down the block. So Beef and I went there to go check out the studio. And so that was pretty awesome. And then we went and got In-N-Out Burger, like typical, Lost LA fashion, and went back to the gig. So that was like a full day of a lot of things going on.
and at that time I was living in LA, but I remember because I had to drive Joan and some of the guys back and forth to the hotel. They came and did, I think it was sound check. They came and did sound check.
Mm-hmm.
And then I drove them back to the hotel.
I feel like we should get into Disneyland.
So let's preface it with number one, I had no idea how many times you'd ever been to Disneyland until you were like, oh yeah, let's go to Disneyland, until I was out there and you were like, we should do it. And I had no idea that you were the king of Disney. You are the king of Disney. But not only did we go to Disney, but so did Joan and the rest of the family. And I don't think we ran into them. I don't think I ran into them all day, but we all did go to Disney, and we'll put some pictures up.
Did you say Disney?
Yeah, I did.
This is a very Disney podcast.
Not Disney, Disney.
Disney podcast.
So it all ended up, we went out, and
it was a nice crew outing.
It was a nice crew outing. Take it away.
No, we went in the morning, and they went separate because we tried to text and say, are you here? Are you here? We'll bump into you. Because obviously, as her family members, we would protect her from any craziness. If there would be, you'd want to, come and let's have a good time, and we'll make sure that you can have a good time and not be bugged.
Yeah, I don't think they were there for that long.
And we were there till they kicked us out.
Yeah, we got there super early and
kicked us out.
Yeah, we were the last ones in the park.
Yes, folks, are you leaving now? Oh, there's still somebody in the bathroom. Can we,
I want to go through. I'll go through some highlights of Disney. And there's so many, but let's get to the first and foremost. You actually know what times the shows are on. You could time your clock to Disney, as they say, but you're very familiar with it. So I think we saw the fountains. We went on the what was it? The pass, the fast pass.
Mm-hmm.
He planned out.
At that time, the fast passes were relatively easier to come by than they were before they closed up. So we'd kind of bounce around, and then we'd be able to go back and forth. So the point is to try to get as much done without being ridiculously exhausted or spending time in too many ridiculously long lines.
Right.
So the shorter amount of time staying in line and doing something, the happier you would be, because you get to actually say, oh, I accomplished, plenty. And then we bounce back and forth from the two parks because they're, walking distance between Disney and California Adventure.
Remember the Haunted Mansion? The Haunted Mansion was awesome. I was like, I couldn't believe I was in it.
My favorite was when we
excuse me.
When we took advantage of problems.
Yes. And there was a couple of problems that day. What was the first problem?
I think the first problem was Indiana Jones.
That was at the end of the night.
That was at the end, yeah.
That was at the end. All right. So the first problem, which wasn't really a problem, was it the Tower of Terror?
Yes.
Because it was before they changed over to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so we're doing Tower of Terror, and it was right before the end of the night that we decided to go, because that park closed an hour or two earlier before Disney. We're on the ride. We're on one of the last rides, and the door opens after we're done, and Beef is just like, yeah, that was the best thing ever. And he's like, I don't ever want to do this ride again.
I hate that ride, but I still do it.
And then the operator says, if somebody will come out, I've got two people who want to do it, and you guys can ride again. And Beef's like, I will. And it's like, what are you thinking? No, you want somebody in the front. I'm like thinking, shut up. So the two people in the front decided to, split, and then we got to ride again without waiting in line. They put the other people on there. So we did back-to-back rides of that. Then later on, we go to do Indiana Jones, and the ride stops.
The ride stopped right by when the ball was supposed to come. The boulder was supposed to come. We got stuck there.
Yep.
Remember, he was doing.
Indy's humping the rope, and then the ball's trying to get, and then lights go on, and you see all of the magic. So there is no more magic. It's ruined. And then we get to the end, and I'm in the front, and the ride operator is expecting us to go out, and I go, "Oh no. We're going again."
That's right.
And they're like, "What?" "Well, the ride stopped on us. We're going again." And the guy goes, "Okay." Sends us off again, which is just like, yes, another 2 for 1. So.
But then after that, the lights were on the entire time we did that ride. When we got off, you went up to another ride operator and you were like, "This ruined our whole experience. Can you please give us..."
I've got rookies. I got people who've never been here before.
It's a huge thing.
Said, "You need to give me a pass so we can just go on any ride we want without waiting."
No, we went on. I think we went on Space Mountain at the end of the night.
Yeah, we ran there.
Yep, run over. We got the pass. Let's go on Space Mountain. So we did everything, and then on the way out, I think they were prepping. Was it around Christmas time, right?
No, Halloween.
It was Halloween. Maybe it was right before Halloween.
It was August. Yeah, September.
They had a whole bunch of press there that was setting up overnight for the next morning because they were going to talk about all the Halloween stuff. So we were talking to one of the press guys, and Annie, I think you were in the bathroom. Somebody was in the bathroom, and then one of the security guys goes, "Excuse me, we're closed. Can you leave now?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're waiting." We made the best of the whole entire day. By the time we got there, we were pretty much the last car up in the parking lot.
Yes, we were.
We had to walk there because there was no tram. We had to walk.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. I mean, being from New York, we walk everywhere. But do you remember the first time we went on we went to Star Wars. And Star Wars was good, and then we did a couple things. I think we did the big roller coaster on the other side.
Yeah, we did that a few times.
Yeah, we did. And then at some point during the day, when you say making the best out of Disney World, I don't know if you remember this, but at some point during the day, I walked back to the parking lot and went to the car, and I got some treats, and I'm not going to name anybody in this, but me and a certain crew member might have split a chocolate filled with mushrooms. And
went on It's a Small World.
Well, that was, and we basically, I took psychedelic drugs for all of you out there. The whole thing is like, this was a good time. We split the chocolates, and I was. Suffice to say, you were like, all of a sudden, Star Wars was done, and I'm like, this shit ain't working. I knew it wasn't going to work, and then all of a sudden, you're like, okay, guys, we got to go to Space Mountain, and I was like, all right. We start walking to Space Mountain for it was like a 10. It was close, but that's an old ride that's stationary that they never got rid of. That roundabout. Yeah, the People Mover, and there's like a little roundabout. That's an old ride that was stationary. People Mover, yeah. It's gone. And then the robot, that Robbie the robot or whoever was in the room forever, that was like one of those lost Disney things. It's right over there. But we were walking a good 10 minutes, and all of a sudden, it just starts coming on, man. And I have the picture somewhere. There's a couple of pictures of that. I have them actually in my box. But we're walking up that ramp, and I remember following you, and Annie was like right behind you, and I was just like, and it was so intense. And we get on the line to Space Mountain, and brother, within the 10 minutes that we waited, it was just full on, and I was in another world. I could not have been. Space Mountain was the only appropriate way to say that was where I was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was intense, dude. I never went on Space Mountain. It was so much fun. And then, like Annie said, we calmed down and we went on It's a Small World. And I was on the floor. Remember, I was on the floor.
I have a picture. I think I have a picture of you on the floor.
Oh, you're gonna have to put that
like done.
And eventually, one day, those things will reopen again. So
well, as soon as it does, I mean, I highly recommend doing psychedelic drugs at Disney. I do. I do. Only do a half dose because it was like 3.5 hours and we were fine. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
We went about the day. And then, like you said, at the end of the day, I was in the magic shop. Remember, I went into the magic shop. Remember the fucking Peter Pan? I mean, the Pirates of the Caribbean was awesome. Oh.
It's good to. I remember also when they did change the Tower of Terror to the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Randy, did I go on the first time you went on it too?
No, it was my.
Please don't be Pat Benatar and like
my first time ever going on it. Please, whatever you do, they've got 4 different songs that they play. Don't be hit me with your best shot.
And then the first thing we hear, and he's like, no. We're like, ah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And happy belated birthday, Pat.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
That was a fun. Did we end it with
one thing I have to say too, and I'm sure you guys will agree, and I've probably worked with more than most of you, but there's not one artist, whether or not I'm a huge fan of theirs or not a huge fan of theirs personally, that I don't think is a good person and, you know, is good and goes out there and gives their all for the fans and the people who come and see. You know, for me, working with those folks is good because they're out there and they're giving their all. They don't want to waste anybody's time, and they're, you know, you think sometimes you meet people that you look up to or some people that you think are your heroes and such, and that they're going to be not even close to what you expect. And there hasn't been one artist that I've worked with on the road that hasn't been insanely great in their own way, that I wouldn't work with again, whether or not, you know, I've worked with them on one gig or one weekend or one tour, and, you know, or for years upon years upon years. And
well, yeah, and you've worked with a lot of different artists in like so many different capacities too, so it's like I'm sure you also have to juggle which gig do I take. Do you take a long-term tour with a different band, or you know, I'm sure there's a lot of different things to like consider when you're you know, because you also do like VIP meet and greet packages and things like that as well.
Yep, and I've had a long-term gig, and then I've been offered something else, and my job is to make sure that I can do kind of both. Hey, I'm not going to be able to go with you. This one's going to a little bit better of an opportunity. It's a little bit longer. I'm going to find somebody to fill in for me to, you know, do the job. I am a phone call away. I am a text away. You can reach me anytime. And they've always known that has been true. So, you know, and I still, even though there are certain people that I haven't worked with in a bit, and now there are people I don't work with because nobody's working. But, you know, it doesn't mean if somebody doesn't call me and ask a question or something, I'm going to ignore them or whichever. And unfortunately, in the last year, I've lost 3 of my artists. So it's been pretty tough.
Sucks,
in different ways. So,
yeah, man.
You know. And,
but
and,
you know,
Annie knows at least one of them.
Sure, why not?
God knows we love. God knows
Eddie Money.
God knows we loved Eddie Money. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I really wish I had. Out of all the artists that, see, you guys know the cycle. Joan will play with everyone and anyone, but the certain booking, the way it's booked, you know, and the routing. There's certain artists she plays with a lot, like Foghat. You know, Cheap Trick was always another one. And then before my time, there was what is that? Foreigner. They've did hundreds of gigs with Foreigner. I never did a gig with Foreigner, and they've done hundreds of gigs with Eddie Money over the years. And I never did a gig with Eddie Money. And I really, out of all the artists that I worked with myself, I really wish I would have got to meet him. And Annie tells the best story. We tell it all the time. Hey Annie, how are you? Hey Betty, how are you? You know what he says.
Yeah.
I remember the first time meeting him was completely out of my working in the music industry. So I might as well tell you where I worked before that. So before I worked for in music and for different musicians, I worked for the Dodgers for 10 years. I was
That's right.
one of the last people that was, well, that's not true. I was the second person hired when Fox bought it, but Peter O'Malley was still in charge until the end of the year. So I had the whole season of 1998 there with Mr. O'Malley, which he was a great guy, and it was cool living and growing up in LA. That was the pinnacle of places you wanted to work. Some people wanted to work at McDonald's. I wanted to work at Dodger Stadium. Why?
Yeah.
It was just cool, and you always knew that, the reason was you'd give back to the community, you do all these interesting, cool things. They were always doing things for other people, and I wanted to somehow be a part of that. I was wandering around, and I'm thinking it was 99, and they had just done a renovation, and they had put in a museum that only lasted a year. 1:30 in the afternoon after I had had lunch, and I said, well, I got about a half an hour to kill, so I'm going to walk over to the museum and look through the museum while it's quiet, and there weren't usually a lot of people who didn't come on a game day. So I go over and I'm looking around, and I look up and I see this guy, and I say, hey, to the curator, I go, hey, is that Eddie Money? And he heard me. He comes up, hey Eddie Money, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Hey, it's good. And Eddie doesn't talk to you. He gets in your face. Hey Eddie Money, nice to meet you. How's it going? You're like, oh. I finished looking around and I started walking out, and I said, well, Ed, it was nice to meet you. I'm got to head back to my office, and he goes, well, I got to go downstairs. I'll walk with you. I'm like, oh, great. I'm touring him around the stadium. So we start walking towards the elevators. And if anybody who's watching this has ever been to Dodger Stadium, there's one bank of elevators in the dead center of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're in the kind of middle level. He's going down, and I'm walking all the way across to the left field side of the stadium. So we start walking, and I go, all right, Ed, I got to tell you a story. I said, I'm sure you've heard many, many, many stories about how your music has touched people and has influenced them. I said, but I've got one that's just kind of a story of what happened. He goes, yeah, go ahead. So I said, so my friend calls me up and says that his friend's girlfriend needs a ride to get up to San Francisco because he's playing in a tennis tournament. She needs a ride so she could see him. And we were teenagers. We were still kind of, sophomores in high school. So he goes, do you want to go? I'm like, sure, yeah, let's go. So my friend had a Volkswagen Rabbit convertible, typical 80s California car.
Totally, man.
And we go and pick this girl up, really cute girl, put everything in the car, and he decides that he wants to take the 101 from where we were in the San Fernando Valley up to San Francisco. Like, dude, this takes forever. I said, you want to go the back way, take the 5. This way is horrible. It's slow, and there's lots of... No, it's great. He takes his cassette. We're up in near San Luis Obispo.
Oh, that's another great city.
Yeah. So he takes the cassette of Eddie Money and he sticks it in the thing, and we're, he's playing Eddie Money, and we're all, bopping around to Eddie Money. And then he goes, hand me the guitar. And he's driving. So I hand him the guitar. So he goes, all right, hold on to the wheel. So he's playing, and I'm driving from the passenger seat while he's got his feet on the gas, doing about 85. So there you go. There's a hill. So he's going down the hill, and then the girl's in the back bouncing around, dancing to the song, and a airplane flies over. I'm like, dude, that's a cop. He goes, that's not a cop. It's one of the crop dusters from the, farms. We're fine. Literally within the next half a mile, cop pulls us over. He's still got the guitar in hand. He goes, get out of the guitar, get out of the car, and put that thing in the trunk. Well, I mean, it's a Volkswagen Rabbit. The thing has a trunk the size of a glove box,
basically.
And then he goes to the girl, goes, and you, miss, put your seatbelt on. And he goes, you, to me. I'm like, what? He goes, what are you, English? Because I was driving from the right-hand side of the car. So he's kind of, laughing. And so he ends up writing a ticket, thank God, and says, leave that thing in the back of the car and go away. And,
all while Eddie Money's playing.
That's the end of that. So anyway, he puts the roof up finally. So Eddie laughs and he goes, oh, that's pretty funny. He goes, do you still talk to them? I said, yeah, well, one of them is, one of my good friends, Jim, and he's the same guy who's the record company guy now. And believe it or not, we put out one of Eddie's records a couple years later.
Oh, that's great.
He goes, well, what happened to the girl? I said, well, she married Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, it comes back to fucking
so
Jennifer.
Comes back to the Sylvester Stallone story. So that was his wife before, yeah.
Wow.
And then the funny part is, and with all that's old is new again, the guy that we went to see play tennis, his name's Stephen Oliver. Well, his father was Tommy Oliver. Well, if you Googled who Tommy Oliver was, he was a record producer and stuff. He did like the Jefferson Airplane, and he worked with Donnie and Marie.
Wow.
And he was the musical director on the original Name That Tune.
Wow.
So whenever the host would go, and Tommy and the band, he'd do his little wave and, get back to, more strings. So, and he is unfortunately passed many years ago, but he was a funny guy.
That is fucking hilarious. It all comes back to Stallone.
I was gonna say, I was like, that's how small the music industry is, how an entertainment industry is,
Man.
So
that's insane.
Eddie laughed, and I gave him my card and said, if you ever need anything, let me know. And he and I were friends until, he got sick. So.
Yeah, man, that's it really does, man. It really does, man. There's so many losses, the last couple of years that were so fucking great losses, great people. I mean, but just a great loss in general. But that was a really good story. My God, that was hilarious. Well, she married Sylvester Stallone. It's a very small industry, and we all know each other, but. Man, it's just it's a hell of a fucking. I can't think of doing anything else. I'm really pushing for it to I don't even want to say it and jinx it, So I just really hope to be out there soon again.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I do want to tell another story with Randy when
Please do.
I think it was Costa Mesa. I think you were going to sell merch for us, like I had called you again.
Pacific Amphitheater, yep.
And Ed, the tour manager, got sick, and that was the first gig that I had to do on my own. I was like, Randy, you got to come here earlier. You got to help me with this. Like, go find another seller. Like, we need help. And there was a 75-person guest list that night.
Oh,
they sell there. So there's a guy that's out. So my job was to kind of count in. And just I think I called and said, you guys are in town, can I come and hang out? And anytime my hangout is, if you don't put me to work, I'm gonna feel like I don't like being
what do I do here?
One of those. Put me to work if there's something for me to do. So I went upstairs and I, counted in the merch with the vendors there. So you guys were all stressed out. What are we going to do? We have all these people. How are we going to do this? And Joan, needs to do all these photos with all these people, and we have X amount of time, and we want to make sure that we're not late on stage. And they have a very strict curfew at Pacific Amphitheater too, because it's in an area that's close to a lot of homes. So they will literally unplug you. And you've heard that, we'll unplug you. They literally will unplug you because they don't want to lose their license with the the city.
Yeah.
You want me to keep going, Annie?
We got it done.
No,
we got
just
that
keep
meet and
going,
greet
man.
done.
Yeah.
So quick.
Everybody's up on the thing, and there was no photo. And the other thing we were waiting for was a photographer, and no photographer showed up.
Yep.
So basically,
phones out. Let's go.
Everybody's lined up this stairwell.
I remember that spiral staircase.
And I literally yell and I go, okay, everybody, here's how we're going to do it. Have your phones out. Make sure before you come that your phone is working, that it's a picture. I will take as many pictures as possible. Say hello, blah, blah, blah. We've got to, and we'll spend as much time as we possibly can. And I'll take as many pictures as I can. But, please. And everybody paid attention, and everybody did great, and people came in and they had their moments, and I took pictures. Okay, cheese, boom, took one really good stop shot plus a couple other ones, and Joan, I think, still had 5 or 10 minutes before showtime. I'm like, all right, you're done. She goes, that was it? I'm like, yeah, it wasn't so bad.
Yeah, just 75 people. We got that in and out.
Yeah,
done.
Yeah. And she goes,
incredible.
She goes, how'd you do so many? I said, I just did 1,000 the other day at the forum with Kiss. And we did it an hour and a half. I said, this is nothing. I said, if I could do that many with a couple of guys coordinating a line and getting people in for Kiss and having them in full makeup. So she kind of smiled, she laughed, she went back to the thing, she went on stage on time, and yeah.
I do want to, talking about stage on time stages. There was, I think a year or two ago at Jones Beach, they literally took the bow with 10 seconds left to curfew. Like, we were all there with phones, like, with seconds. They made it, but it was just like when you mentioned that.
We did that one weekend where, again, Ed couldn't be there for some reason, so he asked if I would kind of fill in as tour manager. I'm like, I'm not the tour manager, but I will be the guy who is you tell me what to do, I will get it done. And then we ended up doing, it was Iowa, and that was crazy because there were a couple of changes in the thing, and that was right before all of the...
Iowa.
No.
I got this tattoo in Iowa, sorry.
And then we went to Colorado right after. And we did some, like, the biggest ever outdoor Taste of Colorado show that they ever had.
Oh, yeah, I remember Taste of, yeah.
And Joan comes up to the stage, and it was, okay, here you go. And, she checked everything out. And her ears were working. I'm like, you ready to go? She goes, yeah. I looked at my watch. We had 5, we were about 4 minutes early. I'm like, want to go now? Sure. So she actually, we started the intro music on, but she literally hit the stage at, I think it was supposed to be 8:00.
Perfect.
Boom. 8:00 she was on, because when they were done, they had to go back to the airport to go home. So I said, I'll go with you on the ride to the airport, make sure you get to where you need to go. And then the guy from the Taste wouldn't bring me back from the airport. I'm like, why? He goes, I've got to pick somebody up. And
dude,
any extra people so the artist who was playing the next day, didn't want anybody in the car. I'm like, that is ridiculous. I said, just tell him I'm, tour managing Joan Jett, and I came to drop them off, and I'm hitching a ride back. I won't even talk to him. So,
what douches?
Well, here's how you kind of fix that. So, sorry, but this is true. I ended up saying, get your guy from the venue on the phone. I said, how much cash do you have? Because I'm going to need a way home. Then back to the hotel. And the guy goes, well, I've got like $60. He goes, okay, like, tell him I want $40. So I can get a cab back. And he's got to pay my cab. I'm literally standing right by where the other artist is going to be picked up. So the guy goes and does the loop around the airport. He comes back. He goes, okay, he said, it's okay. Here's $40. And then he pulls forward and picks up the other artist. And then they take off. And then I go over to the shuttle to the hotel, and I get in the hotel shuttle.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that.
I was smart enough to know that there was a hotel shuttle that was free. So I made
Oh,
$40 for the guy just being a jerk.
I don't. You know what? I don't think the goddamn artist or crew, whoever it was, would have had a problem if it was Jones' tour manager. You know what I mean?
So a year or so later, I'm in Montana and at the venue with Steel Pulse, and the venue we're supposed to go to the next day. Guess who's there? The artist that wasn't gonna let me in the van to go back to the venue with them. So we go over to the venue and introduce ourselves to the guys at the door and say, can we crash and can we watch the gig? Again, nothing against the artist. He probably knew nothing about what was going on. And good artist. I mean, the guy's, super talented, been around for years and years. So, and they said, yeah, he's not at his best today. He's, he came in and he's got a cold. So hopefully he'll be able to get through the whole gig. Played a great gig and so on and so forth. And then afterwards, the guy from the venue took us around and took us, to show us backstage for the next day. And here's the artist. So we introduce ourselves and he's very nice. And I said, would you mind taking a picture with my guy? Oh yeah, no problem. So he takes a picture and he's not one of those guys. Takes a picture with my guy and they're just kind of talking. There's your shot. And then I said, I want to take one with you too. And he goes, yeah, sure. So his face is like this and mine is like, which in my mind at that time of taking the picture was, I bet he has no idea that he made me $40.
That's great.
Oh,
but I never did tell him that because he would have said, dude, that's not me. Obviously it was the driver who was a little bit, leery of having people come in. So, he had no clue. So I can't blame him, but it was the driver who who probably now works at McDonald's who worked for
and I'll bet it was probably like, on the ride or management saying, we want nobody in the car, shit like that.
No, because he went in with one of the guys from the band. So I think they were just being a little bit,
cautious.
Not all venue people are knowing that, people are professional. So they were just trying to be a little over professional. It's cool.
Sure.
No,
I got you.
No love lost. You were coming back and you're like, oh, how'd you get here? I'm like, I just took the shuttle. Right. You still work at the warehouse, right?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm not there now, but yeah, I'm still at SIR. I am still 25th Street has closed their studios. It is it's gone, but yeah, I'm still there, but I was doing a lot of TV work, a lot of NBC stuff, a lot of gigs, a lot of private parties, but it's just dead.
It indeed is. Try living in my city. Lots of big posters that say coming soon and a lot of empty venues. Tonight's the first night of anything at a big venue and it's sports and there's no audience.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to be going to Vegas very soon, within the next 6 months, I believe. So you better believe that I will be coming to visit you if you're there. If not, I might even shoot out to California on the 4-hour drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, wear a mask.
But I definitely will. I'm gonna hope that it's a little bit better. If it's not, I'll wait. But I'm hoping in the next 6 months I can get out there.
Okay, here's serious. Are you guys gonna get vaccinated?
Eventually,
if it has to be.
You guys are way further down the food
chain
than
that's why I'm not even.
I am, unfortunately, but
yeah, that's why I'm not even thinking about it yet. Because they just started opening stuff, and they're like, you can't even get it until April.
Yeah, basically, it's what they told. I mean, I'm okay. I'm very, cautious.
Right. Again, and in talking to doctors, which I have, because the vaccine isn't the virus dead. It's just a totally manipulated RNA gene that has nothing to do with the virus, but it gives you your body, it says you may have this virus, so that's why you build up the immunity. But they don't know what that RNA does because no other vaccine has ever been that before. So they said, it's get it now and be protected, and maybe 20 years from now you may grow another penis, or we don't know. So
right.
it's be protected now or not. But then the other thing too is,
I want one.
Will these venues start telling people they can't come to gigs unless they are vaccinated? They have every right. Will artists want to fly and travel? I mean, 12 people on a bus. How do you do that? Even if you have 6 people on a bus, how do you do that?
It's very tricky. I've made predictions.
Yeah, we like to end the podcast on predictions and theories.
Well, yeah, so I've made my predictions. And Annie's talked about hers. Let's hear your predictions for the future of live music and the live music. Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I mean, again, the difference between people who work and the people who are the artists. The artists, let's hope that they are comfortable, and most of them are comfortable, and they do have, they try to do what they can. I mean, I know some of my guys are doing things on the side because they're not touring for the artists, which is great. It's all about getting from point A to point B, and a group of, we'll say that you've got 10 on a crew.
Yes,
and
that's about right.
And a bigger crew can be, 70 to 80, and that's just your traveling crew. That's your riggers and your thises and that's and techs and so on and so forth. So those people you see pretty much every day. You share your living quarters, and then, when you're not in a hotel, and then you go to work. But then you're going to work and you're mixing in with another 100 people backstage and on stage and pushing and stuff who have nothing to do with the crew. So these are all brand new people, and you see them in the morning for a couple hours, and it's not, it's hours, it's not minutes. And then you see them in the evening for another couple hours while you're loading and leaving. So
that's true.
The artists and some management are the only few that can come in for a small amount of time and then be protected, play, and then go. You're still dealing with the audience, but then again, too, your audience is coming from all over the place. Some people want it, some people don't want it, and that's their choice. I can't judge, with people who want to get it and don't want to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand. And I've got, friends who I know that are frontline workers who don't want to get it. I went to go do blood work a couple of days ago, and I asked the lady who was drawing my blood, "Hey, so have they offered you the vaccine?" "Oh, I'm not getting it." Okay.
Sure.
Right.
Waivers, big time.
And is it inconvenient to wear a mask? Absolutely, sure, whichever.
But really not.
But if you think of the time that you're actually wearing it, it's not that big of a deal. You got to go to the store? Okay, so you're what, a half an hour? Don't go to the store and go up and down every aisle, because go and get what you do need and then leave. But, am I driving in my car by myself with a mask on? No. Am I walking around my neighborhood or going to the park with a mask on? No. Do I have one with me? Yes. Do I go into the local Costco and wear a mask because I have to? Yes. Does it bother me? No. Does it bother me when I go to the bread section and there's some guy sitting talking on his cell phone with his mask off? Yes.
Yeah, you're right, man. If
you're in a
you're in a fucking public place. Just common sense,
Right. For the small amount of time, I mean, believe me, my hands were trashed before I actually got gloves to wear to do certain things, from all of the sanitizing and the hand washing and so on and so forth. So, Yeah, I mean, it's different, and it's a different thing, and will they do performances where they only let a certain amount of people in? Yes, but not certain artists aren't going to go for that. It's either going to be a full house or not, because they're going to go, well, I'm still doing the same performance. It's not my fault that, we're letting in half the people.
Right.
So,
yeah, dude.
but every state has different rules.
Right.
And every state has different, different numbers, and every state has different, this, that, and the other. Just like every family member has different this, that, and the other. So
It's true.
Right, and then when you keep a traveling crew going into different states with different rules, but we're all doing, say, what we all agreed on and whatever,
Right.
it's then you're integrating what you said, other people into your thing.
It's also, the interstate thing as well with the traveling and the quarantine. Although it's not 14 days right now, I don't think it is. If you get tested, it's 3, then you have to get tested again and wait for your results, and you're okay. It's usually 3 days, I think, in New York, but it could be, it could be different. It could be stricter everywhere.
Right.
It's going to be very interesting in the next
Right.
year. I mean,
But
there's
what
some
about
big. Go ahead.
what about people who are, artists? I've got, Steel Pulse. Obviously, a good percentage of those guys are not in this country.
Oh,
And
Jesus, that's a whole nother thing.
How you got one guy that lives in Jamaica, you got one guy that lives in somewhere else that I'm not going to say, and a couple of guys from England, and then a couple of guys in this U.S. Well, what happens when they get here and they can't get out? And then what happens if, they've barred travel? I mean, obviously, right now they're barring, unless you get a test, you can't get in from England or Europe.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but that's constantly changing. So, and then how do you go there? And then when you go there, how do you go from point A to point B? What happens if you start a tour and you start in England, then you need to take the ferry over to France? Well, what if France doesn't let you in? Then you're stuck. That's the end of the
That's
tour.
true. Excuse me,
again,
it's not COVID, it's pot.
Right, nice. And then you're mixing and matching, people from, different areas and so on and so forth. So for the few people who I've known personally who've had it, and the couple I've known who've passed from it, who, been artists. And, one of my artists supposedly called his drummer and said, I got it, and this thing's going to get me. And he was gone a couple of days later.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yep.
Not
necessarily, again, either you'll be okay or there'll be a problem. So
it's really unfortunate, man. It sucks, man.
It sucks. So, again, the more people can just be aware and be careful, and, you've heard it a trillion, zillions of times. Again, none of us are wearing masks, but none of us are in the same house. But,
very true.
I haven't had but one person in my house since last March. Inside. And when they've come in, they've worn a mask.
Yeah, it's been a little different here. I think Annie's a bit more isolated than I have been, only because I think anybody I've come into contact with has been tested and is a close or family trusted. You know what I mean? Speaking of which, you said about the testing. I did I went to work for one day a couple weeks ago, and just to get into the warehouse, it was a fashion shoot, and they had to hire an entire private medical team to swab everybody that got in there. And I was just a truck driver delivering a piano. You know what I mean? And that was insane.
Nobody's sure. I've got a place here, and I've got 2 kids that rent it from me, and both of them got it in November. I said, how? Well, we don't know. And one works at a grocery store and follows all the protocols. The other one works at a X-ray tech and follows all the protocols and wears all the stuff. And who knows? He can, and I've got some older family members that live 5 minutes from me, and I won't see them any closer than them being inside the garage and me being outside. And every time I go over there, and it's some sort of an excuse why, they're not taking care of themselves or wearing. I'm old. It's not an excuse. Didn't that guy just tell you, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay away from people? Then why do you have somebody painting your house and then they go inside your house and they're not wearing a mask? You don't live with them.
Yep. And how many people's houses did they go to?
Right. We're fine. No, you're not fine. I can't,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, it sucks. I don't know. I could talk about this all night. You know that, Annie. I can't, but I can.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows out there, this will probably have to be a two-parter because we're going to have to do Randy's memorabilia. For those, we didn't even get into it. And he's about to pull out the Chiquita, which is from the Back to the Future guitar.
Hold on a minute. I'll be back.
Oh, okay. I know what he's gonna pull out something. All right.
But yeah, Randy has a big collection of stuff, memorabilia. Like I feel like with him in quarantine, he's probably making a museum out of his house because there's like from instruments to baseball stuff to pinball machines. Like,
I mean, I don't want to give it away, but I really think we should do. Yeah, we're gonna have to do a tour of his house with Randy. Some of Randy's choice stuff. I'll bring, you bring out your stuff. We've done it before. Where you bring out your stuff, I bring out mine. You can see I've got some of my stuff out, my cherished items. But it is wall to wall in this man's house, and I mean wall to wall of some of the greatest pieces of memorabilia, some of the wackiest things you'll ever see in your life. And this guy's got them, and we could do just a guitar show with him.
Right.
You guys didn't even see that pre studio time. We were doing a little chat, and Randy showed us his guitar room, and it rivals anybody's locker that I've worked with professionally.
Yeah. What'd you get?
Oh, the little box.
Nice. We were just saying how you're probably turning your house into a museum during this time.
I basically modeled my house after yours. Nice.
No, I got bored. One of my first projects I did was I took my cassette collection and I took the holders and I painted the holders and then I re-alphabetized the tapes.
Oh my
God. I love that. Oh.
And then yesterday I'm watching the Goldbergs. And in the Goldbergs they had one of the cassette holder cases on that. I'm like, I have that same thing. I wish I could find another one. But they're expensive. They're like $100. They're $100 on eBay.
Wow.
I have a poster
who listens to cassettes anyway?
I have a poster that the only frame available for it was $139. Now it's up to $206 because it's a 40 by 60 poster, a marquee poster from an arena from England, So it's a huge poster, and the only poster frames are like custom or snap frames.
Wow.
The Chiquita. Don't worry, this all gets edited.
I know it gets edited. Well, still got to hold on. I can't play a guitar that's out of tune.
Of course not.
You don't tune. I thought you tuned all your guitars yesterday.
God damn, that thing still works.
Woohoo!
The thing really works.
It's awesome, man. You don't happen to have any Eddie Van Halen style guitars, do you?
Eddie Van Halen style guitars?
You got any Eddie Van Halens? Well, we're gonna do a guitar. I think when you were out, I suggested that we do a full episode, another episode with your memorabilia, and possibly dedicated just to your guitars.
I can't afford that many.
You got fucking so many.
You want an Eddie Van Halen guitar? Hold on.
Oh God! All right. All right. I gotta see it. If he could pull one out, then I'll watch it. Yeah, like that. Do it.
Edit. What'd you get?
Oh, I want an In-N-Out burger so bad.
Me too.
Oh,
I want an animal style everything.
I want it. I want doubles, triples.
Mhm.
I can't eat burgers like I used to. As soon as we get out to LA though, oh,
Just the meat, the cheese, and the bun.
I can't do it no more though.
No.
It's more like I'm almost vegetarian.
Horrible.
You started adding lettuce at some point, remember?
Yeah, I did.
We started making you eat
Horrible.
salads.
Meat salad. Beef's meat salad.
Meat salad.
Flat. Oh, fuck my ass. Oh, fuck. I quit.
Ooh,
Fucking
horrible.
quit. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a preview of Randy's guitar collection.
Yeah, I'm putting this away. I'll be back.
He brings out the Chiquita, the fucking Back to the Future guitar, Marty McFly style, and then I randomly ask if he's got an Eddie Van Halen style guitar, and he pulls out a Wolfgang. Sure.
Sure.
This was fun though. This was way better than anything could imagine.
Yes.
It was fun.
We went through a lot today. Disneyland,
We did.
fashion shows.
We did. We did. A lot of LA stuff, you know.
Yeah. Well, he's the king of LA and Disneyland, so we had
I love that man. You want to wrap him up?
Did you bring another guitar?
Yes.
That's loud.
What'd you get now?
Oh yeah.
What guitar is that?
Oh.
Beef quit.
God damn you, man.
He wants to have more guitars. Yeah.
Well, we've come full circle here, I think, Annie.
Yes, I think we're gonna wrap this up. We've spoken about Disneyland and fashion shows and a lot of things.
I think with Randy, you get so much. It's how do you tie up growing up in LA in the 80s,
Growing up LA in the
working for some of the sickest bands ever, and Stallone's first wife, right there.
Yep.
Well, do you want my Lasorta? So, Tommy Lasorta. So, when I started working at the Dodgers, my office was next door to his. The first day of work, so I shared an office. It was about 10 by 10, not including the furniture. So, it was about as big as a jail cell with no bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared it with my boss. So, I didn't have a desk, I had a shelf. And my keyboard went on the shelf, and my monitor went on a claw that hung from the shelf so I could look at my computer that was on the ground, and my phone was on the wall. So my first day of work, about 2:30 in the afternoon, I'm hearing son of a bitch, every single solitary cuss word you could think of coming from the office next door. So I pick up the phone and I call my mother, and I take the phone and I stick it outside the door, and she goes, "Is that Lasorta?" Like, yep. She goes, "Oh my God, he's cussing like a sailor." Like, yep. So that was my first ever experience with Tommy. He was mad at something. And if anybody's ever gone online and listened to him bitch about Dave Kingman, if you haven't, that's you two, because you guys haven't.
Oh, I haven't.
How Dave Kingman's So a guy from the press asked Tommy, he goes, "So what do you think about Dave Kingman's performance today?"
That's all I got to Google.
Oh my God, it's probably the most insane yelling unhappiness you've ever heard from a human being. Anyway, but he's a super nice guy. But he would tell funny stories, and we used to go to lunch all the time, and we'd call him the Tommy lunch. And the Tommy lunch would be at some sort of a restaurant that he would walk into and have a huge table for at least a dozen of us. And the food would just keep coming for about 2 hours.
Jesus.
So whether it was Italian and we'd go to a place for Italian, or Chinese down in Chinatown that was close to the stadium, or, we even took him, if anybody's been to LA, we even took Tommy to Pink's once. Six of us went to Pink's, and we made him stand in line.
Oh, that's
Not
a
lot
great
of people
story.
took pictures. They all just said hello.
That's
Hi,
great.
Nice to meet you. How's it going? He enjoyed his couple of hot dogs, and we took him back to the stadium. So in Vero Beach in Florida, where the Dodgers used to have spring training, they had a food room, and they had a buffet. And on one side of the buffet was the salad. Started with the salad, then it worked all the way up to the hot food, and at the very end was soup, which is totally not what happens at any other buffet. You go to the buffet, usually your normal buffet is soup and salad, and then all your hot entrees.
Absolutely.
And then dessert. So Tommy just wanted soup one day during spring training. This was in the 80s. So he's at one end, and one of the other players of the team, his name was Kenny Landreau. We called him KT. I've asked Kenny this and said, is this story true? And he goes, yes, absolutely. This question was asked. So Tommy's on the one end of the buffet and yells down. He goes, hey, KT, what's the soup? Kenny lifts the lid of the soup, looks down, sets the lid back down, looks up at Tommy, turns around and says, of the day.
What's the soup of the day? Wow, that was funny.
Of the day.
Oh, that sounds good. I'll have that.
Yeah. So instead of going, so he had to wait, and it,
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Beef, you want to sign us off?
Sure. Why not? We'll do a role reversal. Again, we want to thank you so much for coming on, and there's so many fucking things we could talk to you about. There's just offshoots of. I mean, there's so many things. He really is really is a veteran, industry veteran, and there's no one like him in the fucking whole world. I always say this all the time. I love you to death. I can't wait to see you. And I hope to see you soon. And I know when I speak for Annie when I say that, for sure.
We miss you, man.
And we do miss you. And on that note, will you come back and do another show with us?
No.
Perfect. There you go, man. That's signing off. Thanks, buddy. We love you.
Before we go, I'm dedicating all this to my guys I've lost since last year. So I'll kind of put them in order. Eddie Money. We've got Benny Mardonis, who we lost from complications of other things, and then Steve from The Sweet, Bob Kulick, who passed away. So lots of friends of mine I've lost, and hopefully we won't be losing any more, and we'll be able to go out and enjoy some live music and the people. And one thing I've always learned. If there's somebody coming into town and you want to see them, don't go, I'll catch them next time. Go see live music. Go enjoy it, because you never know when that artist may not ever come back again.
Yeah.
That happened to me with Damage Plan, a.k.a. Dimebag Darrell and Pantera, his brother. I said, I'll go see him next time. A month later, he was not alive. On that note, Annie.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see everyone next time. Make sure to follow the podcast at Crewicide everywhere, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Crewicide! 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 Crewicide!